Well, thanks, Barry. It's great to be back at the DPAA, albeit remotely this time. Um, Sticking on our theme of bringing new budgets from new places, today we have a special guest, Diederick Ubels from Sage and Archer, which is a digital DSP and agency combo from the Netherlands in Europe. And we've worked with Sage and Archer for a few years now. We first worked together on a project promoting a music festival in the Netherlands, targeting young people in out of home and then retargeting them to try to get them to attend. You may have seen us present that case study before, and Sage and Archer has not looked back on that strategy, continuing to use it throughout their client base. And today, Diederick comes to discuss a bunch of campaigns. First, Diederick, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. I know you brought a couple of case studies along, and the first one that I wanted to discuss was a campaign you guys did for MoCo, which is a local Dutch museum, and you guys did some really interesting things with this campaign. I'd love for you to tell us about it.
Yeah, it was a really nice campaign. So the MoCo Museum in Amsterdam, if you haven't been to Amsterdam, then it's definitely a tip. It's a contemporary art museum, and it's right next to the Van Gogh. And it's super busy, but they also sometimes have times where they could have some more visitors come in. So what we did with them is a driving campaign to target tourists to get them to go to the museum. And we always ask the question, okay, what can we do to be more effective and more specific in our campaigns, and be smart about what type of data we use in order to be very precise with the limited budget that such museums have to get the right audience and get them into the museum. And what we did for them is that we actually made a trigger based on the first party data of the museum. So we connected the data that came from they register and figured out like how many people are in the museum right now. And when they had some slower hours, they would trigger the campaign and it would run in the vicinity of the museum and try to get tourists into the museum. And then when the museum was full again, the campaign would stop automatically, and the trigger would be to end the campaign or pause it right there. That way, have very limited waste and be very effective and very efficient in whom to reach at what specific moment. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. I love that you guys used a custom local data trigger to trigger spend to make sure that the campaign was as efficient as possible with as little possible wasted spend. That's really important for SMBs who often have much smaller marketing budgets, and all of whom are struggling now through Corona. So this is a great example of ways to help them. On the other end of the scale, I know you have a lot of big clients, and one of them is Ahold, the parent company of the Albert Heijn grocery chain in the Netherlands. And you've done some really interesting things with them as well. Could you tell us about what you did with Ahold?
Yeah, sure. So with Ahold, we basically have the same principle, right? We want to be more specific in whom to reach. For them, they have like specific audiences based on the amount of times they come to the store. So you have Albert Heijn has groups of clients that come in every day or every week, are very loyal customers. But they also have certain audiences or certain client groups that only come in when they have nice discounts, nice offers in that certain period. And what they wanted to do is to figure out how can we reach that specific audience, the audience that doesn't come into the store every week, and how can we reach those? And what we did for Albert Heijn is that we used mobile data to figure out which groups or which pockets or which areas we could find people that weren't coming in too often into the Albert Heijn, and target those very specific audiences that weren't there every week. So we used mobile data to identify those specific groups and to identify those areas and pockets of inventory on digital out of home, basically, where we could actually reach this specific audience. And the cool thing was that we also used that mobile data then to figure out if people were actually coming to the store. So if the activation worked for direct response. And it was very nice to see that we could actually measure that, and we did see an uptick in the amount of people that were actually coming to the store. Actually, we got an uptick of like 30% in footfall. And because we had that data, we could also very specifically measure what things worked and what things didn't work. So optimize the campaign based on measuring effect, basically. Yeah.
That's very cool, Diederick. I love that you have two very similar examples, but there's sort of the simple version and the much more complex version. And you've shown that you don't necessarily need to do both. If you're an advertiser that doesn't necessarily have a ton of mobile sophistication, a lot of mobile data, or the capability to do that, you don't necessarily need to. The fact that you can have this sort of self-limiting trigger in your footfall traffic coming out of the register, or you can go all, full soup to nuts like Ahold did and measure everything. You don't have to do both, but you can if you want. And I love that sophistication that you're bringing to our medium. I also love the fact that these are both very much direct response campaigns running in what is traditionally a branding medium. And the fact that you're mostly on account of your digital triggering, targeting, and attribution technology, you can go after those budgets with a whole new set of tools that out of home brings to the table. Is that something that you guys are looking to do more of?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think like the pocket of demand we're trying to serve, and the companies we help, and that also are interested in the added value of programmatic, are the ones that want to figure out how to optimize their campaign to something that works for them, right? This is basically like out of home is a medium that's typically been used for brand and awareness. But what we see is that whenever we can connect it also to something that brings performance or direct response, then we can also find those types of digital agencies who are accustomed to measure, whether their advertising budgets bring performance and drive leads or visitors or app downloads or whatever.
Digital agencies love to measure stuff.
Definitely. And we'd love to play around with all the variables, right? What type of creative, what type of location, what type of volumes, what type of share of voice should I run? And really, and that's the strength also of programmatic, right? Brings this tremendous flexibility. But if you don't use all those variables and all the buttons you can play around with, then you have all these buttons and all this flexibility, but you're not using it to.
Yeah, it's like buying an F1 car and just using it to drive to the Albert Heijn grocery store. It's not. Yeah, it's exactly. You can do it. You can do that with it, but it's not what it's for.
No, definitely. And you have all this technology, and then you're doing basically the same as you did before. But that's where we come in and really see the added value of what we do with programmatic digital out of home. Is provide those that flexibility, but connect it to something you can measure, and then you can actually optimize a campaign to
those goals
with most effectiveness.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Diederick.
Sure.
Really great examples. If anybody on the session would like to get in contact, either with us at Broadsign or with any of our partners that we're bringing over the 3 days, just click the link below, get in contact. We'll be happy to make the appropriate introductions. Thanks so much, Diederick. Enjoy the rest of your, afternoon, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. See ya.